Hello and welcome to my channel, all things thrift, fashion and sewing. I recently got a little bit inspired by these one shoulder tanks I've been seeing on Pinterest, so I decided to do a few t-shirt flips that are pretty easy and fun, so I hope you enjoy today. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, subscribe if you want to see more. Let's get started! Ew, booger.
So to start, you want a t-shirt that fits you well, preferably more fitted than this one. Wear it and take note of your waist, bust area, how low you want your neckline, where your shoulder strap will be, how tight your underarm is so that you can adjust it when you are cutting your t-shirts or creating your pattern. I will show you how to both create a paper pattern and how to manipulate your physical t-shirt to cut out the top directly. For the patterning method, I first took a photo of the half front and half back of my t-shirt body and sleeve with a ruler to bring it to scale in Illustrator. I also marked my waist and bust point on my t-shirt while wearing it and transferred them to my pattern block. Then for each style, I created the appropriate style lines or slashed and spread to get my final result. My first top features a gather on one side with the strap rising to the opposite side. You'll want to use a t-shirt a couple sizes bigger than your usual size. Lay it out in such a way that you utilize the original finished hem, leaving space at the top to cut a strap. If you're using a t-shirt as a guide, fold it as shown. This is the shape you're going to end up with in the end, but we need to add room for the gathers. You want to center your t-shirt, trace the bottom half, then pivot to the right and trace that edge. Then pivot to the left and trace the other edge. This spreads the smaller area so I can gather on the strap. You can see here how I drafted this pattern by slashing and spreading my original shape. Start by hemming under the side that will not be gathered with a zigzag or cover stitch. Next, with right sides facing, sew up the side seams, reinforcing the ends with a back stitch. Then fold over the gathered edge to create about a 3/4 inch casing and sew. You can use a straight stitch since this area will be gathered and not stretched. Next, you want to cut a long enough strip for your strap. For the length, measure from under your arm to the opposite shoulder. Connect the strips, then fold in half and sew a tube. Sew up one end of the tube and in the seam allowance sew the tip of your elastic. Your elastic should be a similar width to your tube. I used about a 3/8 wide elastic. You could probably go smaller and get more of a daintier look. I think a 1/4 inch would look really nice. Then use a long knitting needle or a chopstick to flip the tube inside out with the elastic and straighten it out. Because my tube ended up being just a little bit too big, I ended up sewing a stitch down the center on that seam while stretching the elastic and fabric. I don't recommend this. It would be better if you just made your tube fit the elastic. Feed your strap through the tube you created on your tank body until it comes out the other end, then attach the ends together and shimmy through until it reaches the underarm seam and tack it there. To finish, gathered to your desired width and you can tack this in place. For this ruched number, you want a long and large top as your base. Using the slash and spread pattern I created as a guide, I left the one shoulder intact and cut around the neckline to the underarm. If you're using a t-shirt as a guide, fold back the t-shirt top edge and trace around the top, including the top half of the sleeve hole. Then move your t-shirt down about half or the same length of your armhole. I'm doing about half the length, and trace the underarm. Then further bring the shirt down so it has been moved down half or the same length of the side seam. ideally till the hems match, and trace the rest. The more you move it down or spread it, the more ruched the effect. I had an idea to repurpose the neck finishing, so I commenced to unpicking it from the rest of the body to apply it to my neckline later. I'll show you this, but I ended up redoing it, and I'll show you that too, of course. Now this top ruches at an angle, so determine your elastic length for your armhole by measuring the armhole of your original t-shirt. For the side seam, measure your underarm to your waist and make the opposite side a little bit longer to get that asymmetrical hem. Then sew the elastics in the side seams, on the wrong side. For the short side, concentrate more of the gathers towards the top. For the long side, concentrate the gathers towards the bottom to get more of an angled ruching. For the armhole, I attached the elastic along the edge of the wrong side of the fabric, creating a more even ruching with the focus more toward the bottom of the armhole. Then for the neckline, I sewed in the original neckline finishing, only to find that it was far too loose, so I then cut it off and sewed in elastic just like the armhole, measuring the diagonal length from my underarm around to my shoulder for the elastic length. To finish these elasticated edges, I folded it over once and sewed a straight stitch while stretching as I sewed. Also, don't forget to reinforce your side seams at the hem. For this reversible cutout shoulder, I'm using 2 large tees. So if you're using your t-shirt as a guide, all you have to do is fold your t-shirt into a 1 shoulder tank shape, then cut a small V from the shoulder to the length you desire. Just make sure that you add enough width for seam allowance. The legs of the shoulder should be no less than 1.5 inches thick. Once your 4 pieces are cut, mark the wrong side of each piece with an X so you don't get confused. Then place the contrasting colors right sides together. Sew all the seams except the side seams. I would recommend sewing in clear elastic to all top seams and make the elastic the same length as the seams. I only had a little bit left, so I just put it on the most important seam, which is the neckline. But I do recommend it for shape retention. Turn out, then feed the 2 shoulder legs from the front into the back. They're exactly the same, so either one can be the front or the back. And sew across these. Then you can turn this out and you'll see how nicely they'll be attached together. Next, you're going to match the side seams color to color, turn it inside out, and sew. Leave a small 3-inch gap on one side to turn it out. Once turned out, you'll want to slip stitch the opening, then iron the seams, and it's done.